just two guys talking in a van on the way to shows. Myself and Tim DeLauder, we'd be driving. Actually, we drove to Stephenville, Texas to play a show with Tripping Daisy, and we just kind of were talking. It's like, you know, wouldn't it be cool if we opened a record store in Dallas? And at this point, it was '99, and Bill's was kind of on the downward slope that he's been going on, and he's kind of, well, everybody was kind of hurting somewhat. Or Bill kind of wasn't doing what he was doing, and CD World, I was working at CD World at the time, and they were doing a lot of CDs, but there kind of wasn't a niche store at the time that we wanted to shop at. So we decided, kept talking about it, and a friend of ours, Wes, passed away in Tripping Daisy, so we had a little bit of off time, and just one day out of the blue, Tim goes, "Hey, I found our spot." He came up with the name Good Records and found a spot on Good Latimer where the rent was cheap enough to kind of grow into it. And so we just set an opening date, February 7th, 2000, and we just pulled our personal collections, and we did a bunch of ordering and got a loan, and we just went for it. Unbeknownst to us, 1999 was the biggest selling year of the CD. So ever since we've been open, the CD has gone down, 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 down. But we've always carried vinyl. In the meantime, vinyl's always gone on up, up, up. It's about 2006, 2007, we kind of realized, and we talked to some other stores. We're in a coalition called AIMS, and we talked to some other stores throughout the country, like, "Hey, are you selling a lot of vinyl?" And you're like, you're selling Neutral Milk Hotel and an Aeroplane Over the Sea like it was brand new, and everybody was like, "Yeah, it's weird." And so kind of right when it needed to happen for us to keep growing, vinyl just took off. And about that time where we needed to expand, the Dart Rail came through Deep Ellum, and they were kind of trying to revamp Deep Ellum and get the Green Line to go through there. So the city actually paid for us to move, and we kind of did our budgeting to help get even more inventory and just grow. And we decided to get a bigger spot and close to where we lived. And at that time, Deep Ellum was, kind of on a downward slope, but now it's back and going. And when we got to Lower Greenville, it was kind of happening, and then it started to go down. But now Lower Greenville's coming up, so 15 years later, we're really excited about the prospects of Good Records thriving. Basically, my main motivation is just to try to create a record store that I wanted to shop in. And that goes back to when I was a kid and growing up in San Antonio. My dad and my stepfather, we'd go do the routes. We would hit Hog Wild, Flipside, Apple Records on San Pedro, and hit flea markets, and that would be kind of our weekend family activity. So growing up, I would shop at those stores, and then I went to A&M, and the owner of Hog Wild actually opened a record store in Bryan College Station called Marooned. And I walked in, and I was like, "This is an awful lot like Hog Wild." And they go, "Well, of course it is. It's because Dave Risher owns it." So shopped there while I was going to school at A&M, and towards the end of my bachelor degree, I wound up working there, and then ultimately managed that store and stayed in College Station, of all places, for 2 or 3 years. But we had a good run there. We'd bring bands like Shudder to Think, Fugazi, and at a little place called Stafford Opera House, and we'd have Northgate Cafe and Vertigo, and brought some good bands through, Six Finger Satellite. And but as far as my motivation for running Good Records, it's just in my blood, and I love it. And it's definitely not to get rich. Running a record store is a labor of love, as anybody who owns or has worked at a record store knows. And I guess one of the common misnomers is a lot of people come to work at a record store, they think it's a blow-off fluff job, you can stand around. But if you're gonna actually help make it be successful, you got to work, and you got to know how to alphabetize and stock and deal with customers. Good Records participated in the first record store day with actually a little bit of trepidation. I wasn't sure if people would embrace it. One of the store in Atlanta called Criminal Records, he's on the board of Record Store Day, and he's our president of Ames that we're affiliated with. And so the first Record Store Day kind of flew under the radar a little bit. There was a lot less releases and a lot less stores participating, but in typical Good Records fashion, we kind of embraced it and turned it into our birthday party. Our birthday is actually February 7th. Record Store Day is the third Saturday in April. It was close enough, so I was just like, let's use that as a vehicle to try to make sure Record Store Day was successful since we were participating. And our sales have increased every year that we've been involved with Record Store Day. It's been a blessing, and turned it into a little bit of a curse. There's so many releases. It's like gambling almost, because I've got to come up with the money to buy all these things and hope they sell. So a little bit, they need to limit it, in my opinion, the number of releases, and have some kind of voting committee, you know, so, and make just enough where every store that wants it can have it, so they don't have people waiting all night and we only get one copy of the Death Grips or whatever the hot one is that year. But overall, I mean, it was modeled after Comic Book Day, with the free comics, and it's a good shot in the arm to help keep us afloat. You just have to be careful, you know, and not overextend yourself credit-wise and purchasing-wise. For me, Record Store Day is about creating a killer party with a great soundtrack, and throughout the years I've flown in our Revolver rep who we order from. He's the drummer in Comets on Fire. He has a group called Colossal Yes. I helped him put together a band. They learned his music, some of the Polyphonic Spree guys. Asa from Lungfish has a project called Zomes. We flew him in, and he followed up Octopus Project, and they're so high energy, and his is real drony and real mellow. Me and him kind of at the last minute decided to let him play dead middle of the parking lot and just put his keyboard on a big bucket, and he just played for like 20 or 30 people. Everybody kind of got out there and sat crisscross applesauce, the PC term, and just loved that. And then we had Stardeath and White Dwarfs with Tyson Mead come down and do David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust. Jason Lytle and Midlake played together and did Granddaddy songs. It's just I love getting the newer local bands involved, you know, that people haven't seen yet, and try to get them in front of a big crowd. And we have nationals and locals, and we go from, you know, the music goes from basically noon till midnight. It's just non-stop. It's definitely one for the books. So we had the one and only Fat Belly Bella, Erykah Badu. She did Record Store Day, and she actually showed up on time, but earlier in the day I had gotten a noise complaint. So I told the cops, I said, well, I've got Erykah Badu and there's no way I can put her inside, so we're going to have to do it outside. And the cops go, I know, we'll try to do our best to show up as slow as possible. So she proceeds to get on the stage, and she leads a little chant against the police as things progress. And ultimately, I had been up for 36 to 48 hours prepping the store for Record Store Day, and I was afraid I was going to get arrested. So I went over on Skillman and Live Oak to the beer cave and hid out, and I was calling the store like, hey, what's going on with the cops? What's going on? What's going on? And so finally, when it was clear, after she was done performing, I came back to the record store. Didn't get arrested, but got a couple of tickets and fought them and got them dismissed. So since then, we've had to do all our live music indoors just because a few local neighborhood people can't handle it. But I don't know, it's kind of fitting to me. Record Store Day, in-store's always been about doing it inside, so I like to get it nice and tight in here, and we have DJs in the